Well, we're back in my shed and the jobs are piling up for this thing, so we better start ticking them off. So I've got a fair bit going on under the bonnet here, and pretty much what I've got to do today is strip it all down and get things ready for the new stuff to go on. I've already made a little bit of progress on this side, the hot side. I needed to pull some stuff off to get the heat shield off as like a bit of a marker for the new turbo kit that's going on. But someone has bought this turbo setup already, so I really need to get that off. So that's manifold, the wastegate's already off, pull the turbo off and pull the dump pipe off. All the new stuff is already underway. I've ordered the turbo, I've got the wastegate actually, and I've got the manifold that's getting modified. So hopefully I'll have all that back soon. I've finally got to tackle this front main seal job. It's like been on the jobs list for about 8 months now, probably longer, 10 months. And recently it's just gotten worse and worse. So I've got the radiator already out. I've cleaned the car because there was oil residue and then dirt sticks to it. It was just like made a big mess. So I've cleaned it up. So that's got to be done today. The alternator's got to come off because I think the bearing's no good in the front. It sounds really average. I'm fairly confident it's coming from the alternator. So I've got to pull that off. And I don't know if I really like that alternator, so I might change it, keep this one for a spare. I've got to mount a power steering cooler down the bottom there, like one of the cylinder ones. If you've been watching for ages, I'd put one on the race car. So I'm gonna put one on this car in the same spot. Justin's coming around from J&E Auto Elect at some stage and he's gonna do some wiring for me. And then amongst all that, there's still 100 other jobs to do that I can't think of right now. But some of them are just general maintenance jobs, getting it ready for Easter. So I'm gonna put like new radiator lines in. I've got to work out all the turbo lines, the water lines, and the oil feed line and drain. So all new ones of them. The injectors have got to come out. I thought while I'm here, I'll pull the injectors out and run them down to Independent Motorsports and they can flow test them and make sure they're all still good, because they've been in this car for, I don't know, like since 2016, I think they've been in this car, 2017, 16. That's like 6-7 years they've been in this car. And then before that, they were in my other green car. So they haven't been, tested in 8 or 9 years, I suppose. So I'll run them down there, make sure they're all good. Got to clean my air filter out, clean my catch can out, do all the little jobs like that. Let's get stuck into it. The first thing I'm gonna do is just pull all this turbo stuff off so then it's ready for old mate to come and buy, and then we'll get stuck into some other jobs. Turbo and manifold and everything's off. It's actually not that hard of a job. Every stud except for these two just come out either with the nut still on it or by hand. I just wound them out. So make sure you use Never-Seez if you're doing that stuff, because that's the reason it comes out. Everything undone, really easy. So I'll just give these faces a clean up, and I'm gonna run new studs. If you, or even any manifold, but especially a turbo manifold, regardless if it's a TD or TB, it doesn't matter. Use these gaskets. So these are multi-layered steel. They're like individual cylinder gaskets. They're factory Nissan gaskets, so they come out factory on the factory turbo TDs in the GUs. So anytime, you've got a turbo manifold or something, make sure you're using these multi-layer steel gaskets. Because if you use, if you just get a gasket kit, they come with them graphite exhaust gaskets or whatever, they'll be blown out in no time. Just spend a bit of extra money to get some of these. But these are going with the turbo kit, and then I'll just buy a new set. So Roadrunner actually stocked these, so I'll be giving the boys at Roadrunner Off-Road a call and chasing some of them up anyway. And because the guy that's actually buying this, I'm pretty sure it's going on a TD. So I do have like the old, it's like an 8 centimetre rehousing. It's a 0.64 or whatever they are. 0.63. So I'm throwing that in for him because I did used to run that, and then I stepped up to a 0.73, which is like a 10 centimeter, which was a little bit better for the TB. But seeing as it's going on the TD, I'll throw in the small housing. He can play with either one. They both just bolt straight up, so it's easy enough to change. So that's one job ticked off the list. I think now I'm going to start stripping stuff to pull the injector rail out. I'll pull the injectors out, and then I'll pull the alternator off. I am going to do valve clearances while I'm here, and then I think I'm going to change out the head bolts. I'm just trying to chase some up at the moment as well. So once that's all cleared and I've got room, and then I can chase up some head bolts, whip the rocker cover off. I'll have to pull out the rocker assembly, change the head bolts one by one, put it all back together, do the clearances. But that'll probably be in a future video, so keep an eye out for that. Righto, back on a time lapse you go. All right, well that's the injector rail out. It's not too bad with this intake manifold. You still have to pull off the idle control valve. I was gonna do what I done to the race car. I ran half length injectors, and then with the adapters, it turns into a 3/4 length, and then cut the rail down, and it gives you more room under the idle control valve, but I'm not gonna do that now. It's fine the way it is. How many times you have to pull the injectors out, so it's not that bad. It's certainly heaps easier than if you had the standard intake manifold on, because that is painful. It is important when you pull the rail out that you keep all the injectors in the same cylinder. So yeah, I'm just gonna label them 1 to 6, put them in a Ziploc bag. When they're open, I'll run it down to Independent Motorsports and they can make sure they're all good for me. And if they're not good, then I'll get some more, but that should keep everything in top-notch shape. All right, well, I've had enough for the day. So this is where we're at. I've just pulled the alternator off. There is just oily crap everywhere, like fans off. And pretty much I'm ready to do the front main seal, but I'm gonna do that tomorrow. The injectors are out. I've capped up all the holes on the exhaust and the injectors there. What I'm gonna do is, when I get some more stuff back in, I'm gonna push it outside and then give the engine bay a good clean with all the stuff off it. So it should get most of the oily residue out. And then behind the airbox over there, you know, there's a bit of build-up of crap over there. So I'll just leave it at that for today. So I'll check in tomorrow and we'll do this front main seal and then a couple of little jobs and we'll go from there. All right, well, I'm just about to tackle this front main seal. So I've already previously, all the belts are already off anyway. So yeah, literally all that's left to do is undo the harmonic balancer, pull it off, make sure the keyways are all in good condition, get the seal out, put a new seal in, and then put it back together. So hopefully the harmonic balancer bolt undoes easy enough, because it is a bit tricky to crack them. If you have like a breaker bar, it just turns the motor over. They've got to put it in gear or whatever. But I might fit a rattle gun in there and see if I can just crack it with a rattle gun. So we'll see how we go. So I don't currently have the biggest rattle gun. It's like Makita's middle one. And I'm living a bit dangerous with the chrome socket, but it fits on there. So I'll see if I can crack it. Usually TB ones aren't like as tight as a TD. TD's actually got a nut and then they've got like a taper lock thing. And these are just like a big bolt. So these aren't too bad usually. Beautiful. Can't get the rattle gun out now. That was easy. So here's a little harmonic balancer puller. They have 2 M6 threads in the front of it. So you need some little M6 bolts. I don't know if these are gonna be long enough, but I've got some all thread there that I can just cut the length if I have to. So screw the bolt through this thing, onto the harmonic balancer, and then you put the center punch in and then just wind the harmonic balancer off. So that's what it looks like on. And then we literally just do this. So I've got the car in gear as well, obviously. Stops the harmonic balancer spinning. It's a little bit tight, but it's coming off. Success. it's off. So a good way to get a seal out, any seal, but is use one of these Phillips head drive and a couple of screws. You got to be careful not to obviously damage the crank or the timing cover, but we'll screw one in either side, and then it gives you something to hold on to and work the seal out. There we go, it's out. So you can see the screws in good position, no damage anywhere. We've got to clean this right up, give it a nice good clean. We'll check the harmonic balancer and then knock the new seal in. Well, I've cleaned up down here. You can see all I've cleaned up. I've gave the crank a bit of a wipe, and then on the inside where the seal seats, give it all nice and good wipe, clean it all up, make sure there's no debris or anything in there. And then I have clean up the harmonic balancer. So the outside sealing surface, I gave that a bit of a touch up, make sure there's no grooves in any of it. And then I did the same on the inside just to make sure there's nothing major in there going on. So it all looks good. So pretty much just bang the seal back in and then put the balancer back on. That's pretty much as hard as it is. All right, well that's job done. So hopefully you can see it's back on, it's all the way home. What I actually had to do was I couldn't get the harmonic balancer on far enough because it obviously gets onto a bit of a taper with like the spacer that's behind the bolt. So what I actually did was I just ground, like you only just need to take a pinch out of a panhard washer. I had a spare one. So I just die grinded that out a little bit, and then I was able to get like a washer on the nut, because without any washer, the bolt head goes all the way into the harmonic balancer. So yeah, pretty much just put that on as a washer for the bolt, and then done it up until the harmonic balancer was nearly home, pulled the bolt back out, and then put the normal spacer back on, and then torqued it up. So I'll wrap this one up here. Stay tuned, because the next one you see will be, got some compressor modifications to do, and then there's obviously still stuff going on. We'll do a turbo setup that I'm going to, and then the car's obviously got to go to the dyno. There's a heap more wiring stuff to do, and then a final few jobs. I've got to pull one of the front bypass shocks down. So there's still heaps to do, so stay tuned for all that. Next week is a race car drive video, and it was a bloody awesome day, so keep an eye out for that one. But until then, we'll see you on the next one.
Yeah, why not?